Hi everyone. Today we are going to talk about line call disputes. Whether you are making a call or challenging a call to be a part of a line call dispute, it is the absolute worst feeling to have. It's the least comfortable situation I feel like that we get in as players in a match. The worst! And listen, it's getting more challenging. The ball that people are hitting is getting faster. And players are getting way more competitive, I think, than they've ever been. I mean, in general. So those two things, I think, have added to the reason why we see more mistakes being made today. And listen, again, we see this at all levels, from junior to adult. Even the USTA is going through a big push right now, trying to encourage sportsmanship on our juniors, just because even the USTA is like, this is out of control. And it's a really tricky situation. So today I want to talk to you about maybe understanding where some of that comes from, and then maybe some advice on when you're giving calls and how to properly challenge a call and what you could do to maybe feel the most comfortable you can when you play. So to understand, I think, where a lot of this comes from boils down to psychology. Yes, psychology. I think that most people would agree that making a mistake of a line call, we don't think players generally make bad calls on purpose. They are mistakes. And I think it stems from what people would maybe like an extension of what's called a positive illusion, meaning that you see what you need to see to kind of put yourself in the best light, or in this case, the best scenario for your future. So a lot of players that are super competitive, obviously we want to win. Is that a bad thing? Absolutely not. We want you to be competitive. It's an important part of being a great athlete, being great tennis players, having that competitive spirit. However, it does backfire a little bit in this occasion, because sometimes when a ball is moving so fast and you automatically think before the ball is even bounced that it's going out, your brain sometimes can send a message to your eyes going, that ball's going out. And the word out will just come out, and your brain has tricked your eyes into seeing what essentially you want to see instead of what might have really happened. And look, it happens to everybody. I've definitely been overruled on line calls before. I would say most people have in their lifetime. But I think there are ways that we can handle it better. So as the ball is getting faster, things are getting more challenging. Make sure, even though you think the ball is going out, make sure as the ball is traveling, sounds kind of weird, but slow down your breathing. Try to slow down the situation so that the ball slows down a little bit in your head. So make sure you're seeing what you need to see instead of what you want to see. When players call the ball out, most of them would say, including myself, that you feel a space. You feel the space between the line and where the ball has bounced. It's an area, and you just feel it. And once you know, again, you call the ball out when you are 110% sure that the ball is out. If there is any doubt in your mind at all, don't call the ball out. Don't do it. It's not the when in doubt, call it out. That is horrible. You only call the ball out when you are absolutely sure the ball is out. In singles, you're responsible for making all the calls yourself, so that's all on you. But if you're playing doubles, either player can call the ball out, so make sure you're also taking into account that sometimes your partner might have a more accurate view on the ball bounce than you do. Especially, let's say, when your opponent is serving and you're standing on the baseline and your partner is at the net. The ball that's long, that goes past the service line, your partner actually most of the time will have a better view on that ball than you do. So if it's close, I'm not going to call that ball. I'm going to let my partner call that ball, essentially. Of course, if I'm absolutely sure it's out, I'm going to call it out regardless. On the wide calls, my partner doesn't have the same kind of view, so that's now my responsibility. Also in doubles, make sure if you're on, or even singles, if you're on one side of the court and there is a close ball on the opposite side of the court, like it's like landed very close to the opposite singles line or doubles line or whatever, and you think the ball might have been out, it might have had like this much space, don't call it. You're on the opposite side of the court. The chances of you seeing a really close ball like that from that far away are pretty low. So again, what it all boils down to is you have to be sure before you call the ball out. So make sure you are giving the ball a chance to prove that it's out, so feeling that space between the line and you, and making sure you have the angle to call the ball properly. That's going to help you make the best calls you can in a challenging situation where the ball is traveling fast. And again, you want to win so badly. You also want to make sure you're being as fair as possible. Now I want to talk about being on the challenging end. Obviously, you're not gonna go to your opponent if you feel like you've hit a ball and they call the ball out and you think they've made a mistake. You're going to want to say some wonderfully choice words to your opponent. You're going to want to call them a cheater, say they're the worst, can't. But the problem is that the only thing worse probably than having the reputation that you make a lot of mistakes in line calls is being the person that flips out over everything. You don't want to be that person. So it honestly doesn't usually help the situation anyway. So when something like that happens, remain calm. And yes, most of you know that the procedure is if you think that your opponent's made a mistake, you ask, are you sure? Everyone hates that because you don't think it does anything, but at least you're letting your opponent know that you have a difference in opinion, okay? You don't have to be a jerk to do that. If it happens once, okay, like I just said a little earlier, everyone makes mistakes. So on the first mistake, I'm going to give my opponent the benefit of the doubt. Maybe they made a mistake, maybe I did, and seeing it, whatever, but I'm going to let it go. Now, if it happens more than once, get help, okay? A lot of people are afraid to do this because, I guess I understand. It feels weird, kind of embarrassing. Oh my gosh, the other people will be mad at me, okay? But here's the thing. If you don't do something about this, you're going to feel a lot less comfortable playing. If I'm hitting a ball towards the other side's baseline, and I know that if I hit a ball anywhere near the baseline, that my opponent's going to call it out, I'm not going to hit a ball near there. I'm not going to swing out. I'm not going to be doing the things that I've been trained to do. It's going to change the way I'm playing, and that's not fair and not something that should be happening. So what should you do? Okay, so if you're in junior tennis, if you're playing tournaments, usually there's an umpire or a pro that you go and get for help. That person will come and watch your court, maybe only for a few games, to make sure all the calls are clean and then leave. If there is another, altercation or mistake, you can always go get that person again and it's fine. But at least, again, you have someone on the court watching it so you feel a little more comfortable. In Ladies League, it's a little more awkward. What happens is when you get help, you get your captain or, one person from your team, and then you have one person from each team on opposing net poles watching the calls, okay, to kind of help you to confirm or deny that mistakes are being made. Again, I know it's super awkward, feels horrible, but again, it might give you at least a little more level of comfort knowing that you can hit the ball, knowing that someone else is there to help watch these things so you don't feel like you can't swing through the ball anymore. Getting help is great, and you have to. You don't sit there and let those things happen to you if mistakes have happened more than once. You obviously there is a line of etiquette you want to keep, but you also need to be able to stand up for yourself when mistakes are happening. The last thing I want to talk about is when you're not on the court, when you are a spectator, whether you're like on your friend's team watching them play, or in my kids' clinics waiting to rotate in and watching the kids involved play a point. My kids this week, I had to have a big chat with them because when a line call dispute was being had, all the kids, whether they were playing or not, were commentating on it. And I call it the peanut gallery. I said, quiet in the peanut gallery. If you are watching a point, if you are a spectator, you are not commentating on the things that are going on the court. You aren't. And the people that are on the court can't consult you for these things. You can't confirm or deny calls with your teammates. You can't. I mean, some people get away with it by, you know, the subtle look, just looking to your teammate and going, well, but really, as an outsider, you're not supposed to have any influence on what's going on the court. It's part of tennis. The players on the court are supposed to work them out themselves. And if they can't, they need to be able to get a captain or a pro to help them. It keeps the tennis experience the way it's supposed to be instead of a really, really big mess and kind of, at least in women's tennis, like a social, like crazy crashing thing, okay? So again, make sure you're using these tips to go and play in your matches and make the best line calls you can, be as fair as you can, but also know that there is a protocol. There are things you can do when things are going wrong, and you don't have to be a jerk to do it. I know, because I have been a jerk before when it's happened, and it doesn't help any. So use these things to help you in your matches, and have a great week.